After 14 years, Mary Jane Veloso is set to come home. Once here, she won't go free, but her life will be spared. I'm Michelle Abad. You're watching Rappler Recap. Big news today for the Philippines. If you've been following Philippine news for at least 10 years, you'd probably know about the case of Mary Jane Veloso, the Filipina who has been on death row in Indonesia since 2010. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. this morning, Wednesday, November 20, announced that the Philippines and Indonesia reached an agreement to bring Mary Jane back to the Philippines. Let's recap what happened to her case. In 2010, Mary Jane was recruited by her godsister, Maria Cristina Serio, to work as a domestic worker in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Cristina and her partner, Julius Lacanelao, gave her a suitcase to use. Mary Jane checked the bag and saw it was empty, but felt it was heavy. In April 2010, Mary Jane arrived at the Yogyakarta airport when the suitcase passed through the X-ray scanner. It set off the alarm. Indonesian authorities found 2.6 kilograms of heroin inside with an estimated street value of $500,000. Mary Jane was arrested, and just 6 months later, she was found guilty and sentenced to death for drug smuggling. But from these years and beyond, Mary Jane has always maintained that her recruiters duped her into unwittingly acting as their drug mule. The Philippines has appealed for clemency from the Indonesian government, under then-President Joko Widodo. But Jokowi rejected it at least once in 2015, and she was scheduled for execution. But at the 11th hour, Indonesia decided to postpone it after the late President Benigno Aquino III asked Indonesia to turn Veloso into a state witness. Aquino said it would help Indonesia pin down a drug trafficking syndicate, which allegedly included Mary Jane's recruiters. There was a lot of back and forth on the legality of Mary Jane being allowed to testify from Indonesia. But eventually, the Supreme Court here in the Philippines decided that she could do it from Indonesia. But taking her deposition stalled for a very, very long time because of requirements by the Indonesian government, such as the presence of the judge and prosecutors. Here's a little bit more about the legal basis of why Indonesia has kept Mary Jane alive, despite her being on the death row for so many years.
Clarify also, the Indonesians are aware, and part of the reason why she has been not kept alive and not executed is that we are prosecuting the illegal traffickers or those who responsible for bringing her to Indonesia. There is a pending case in Nueva Ecija, in the RTC of Nueva Ecija, and an important aspect of that case is that precisely her statement is needed, and it would be very helpful if instead of getting a deposition from Indonesia, if she were here. So, the bottom line, once she's here, we are at least assured that there will be no death penalty. We do not issue the death penalty. We do not have the death penalty. And we would, under principles of international humanitarian law, have some right to refuse if the Indonesians would request her back. But that's precisely a sign that they are not interested to execute Ms. Veloso. May I clarify also, the Indonesians are aware, and part of the reason why she has been not kept alive and not executed is that we are prosecuting the illegal traffickers or those who responsible for bringing her to Indonesia. There is a pending case in Nueva Ecija, in the RTC of Nueva Ecija, and an important aspect of that case is that precisely her statement is needed, and it would be very helpful if instead of getting a deposition from Indonesia, if she were here. So, the bottom line, once she's here, we are at least assured that there will be no death penalty. We do not issue the death penalty. We do not have the death penalty, and we would, under principles of international humanitarian law, have some right to refuse if Indonesians would request her back. But that's precisely a sign that they are not interested to execute Ms. Veloso. May I clarify also, the Indonesians are aware, and part of the reason...
So we played that clip back twice to you. So that was from a Malacanang press briefing from earlier this around noontime. So in a nutshell, Foreign Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega said that Indonesia granted Mary Jane a reprieve to allow her to testify against her recruiters. And it will be easier for her to make that deposition if she were to do that here. So before the announcement of the transfer, Mary Jane's legal team focused on getting that deposition and progressing her case against her illegal recruiters in Nueva Ecija, because a guilty verdict could add leverage to her chance at clemency in Indonesia. But everything has changed now with the transfer, and so the talk of the possible transfer happened between Ambassador Gina Hamoralin and Indonesia's coordinating ministry for legal, human rights, immigration, and correction just on November 11, which was just last week. So from last week, we went to yesterday, which was November 19, and the Department of Foreign Affairs did confirm that they were discussing a possible transfer for Mary Jane to serve the rest of her sentence here in the Philippines. So from yesterday, we go to this morning when President Marcos said that this transfer was pushing through. So let's go to what happens now. So far, negotiations are still on the table. There's still no date yet when we know when Mary Jane will be coming home or when the transfer will happen. And we also don't know where she will be detained here in the Philippines. But the DOJ says that it's considering the Correctional Institution for Women in Mandaluyong. One thing is for sure, though. Mary Jane won't be free yet once she gets here. So here's Undersecretary De Vega again confirming that.
So when she gets here, if she gets here and when she gets here, she will not immediately be released. It means we will commit to detain her until such time that we've a mutual agreement that she could be given clemency. But at least she would be here.
Okay, so we also ask, is she now safe from the death row? So De Vega said that nothing is 100%, but the fact that Indonesia is talking to us about transferring likely means that they no longer want to execute her. And once she's here, since we don't have death penalty, she will be, quote, completely safe from death penalty. Now, what does it mean for her case in Nueva Ecija? According to the DOJ, it will definitely progress faster now that she can testify from the Philippines. Another thing, you might also be wondering, how is her family now? So her parents, Cesar and Celia, have aged since Mary Jane left, and her two sons, who were just small children when she left, are now taller than her, based on pictures that we did see from when they visited her in June 2023. So this family, they've always stayed hopeful. We've always seen them in the pickets and in the campaigns with the other supporters and her advocates that Mary Jane will eventually be freed. And when they learned about the possible transfer last week, November 15, they were initially fearful about the prison conditions should Mary Jane be transferred to a prison here, especially because when they visited, and in these visits in these past years, they saw how the prison guards in Yogyakarta took care of Mary Jane all these years, and they also saw that she had many friends in the prison that kept her taken care of. And as much as possible, when they heard the news initially from Migrante International, which has been helping them, they wanted for Mary Jane to be brought immediately to their home in Nueva Ecija. But as of now, we see that that might not be happening. After Migrante International explained that this was a positive development, they understood, they held their fear, they understood that this was something that was positive for them, and they accepted it. And also this morning, Jane Veloso, Mary Jane's father, expressed his gratitude to the president in a radio interview earlier today. And just for a bit of background also on the new policy from Indonesia, right? We also want to ask what prompted this. So this is a change of tone under the newly elected President Prabowo Subianto. And De Vega said that the Indonesia Coordinating Ministry, which is similar to our DOJ here, said that they were formulating a policy on the transfer of foreign persons to their host countries. So it looks like Prabowo wants to open a new chapter in its relations with the Philippines, starting with the Mary Jane case. So this has been a recap of the Mary Jane Veloso case and its latest updates as of this week. Keep tuning into Rappler for more as we cover Mary Jane's homecoming. Also, if you have thoughts to share about this case, let's chat at the Overseas Filipinos channel on the Rappler Communities app. Again, this has been Michelle Abad. Thank you for watching.